Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today I'm going to be talking about a topic that's been on my mind recently, and that is the full story and history behind RB01 or Rising Winds for Japan or Resurgence Booster for the English version, as this set has been a very hot topic recently, and it is one of the most divisive sets, if not the most divisive set, in the history of the Digimon trading card game. I don't necessarily think the idea and intention was all that bad, just because the set was designed to increase the accessibility of some of the older cards in promos, while offering a couple of new cards to tie in and promote the latest season of the anime, which was, at the time, Digimon Ghost Games. The reason for the need of accessibility is the fact that in the Japanese format, some promo cards were banned because of the limited supply and release, making it harder for players to actually get them if they lived anywhere outside of Japan. Reprint sets from a business perspective isn't necessarily a super bad idea either, just because of the low cost production in terms of what's actually going into it, because they don't need to spend a whole lot of time and money on new arts and new card designs. So going back to that accessibility issue, like I already stated before, some promos were banned from Asian tournaments just because of that accessibility issue. So there was an exceptional ban list that lasted from September 24th, 2022 to January 27th of 2023, which was Rising Wind's release. So the reason behind the special ban was because of how certain promos were distributed inside of Japanese magazines as a free gift, and they weren't distributed in other Asian regions. Therefore, to keep the playing field level, these cards were banned from official tournaments in Asian regions. So with the Rising Winds release in January 27th, that allowed those cards to be accessible, so they were taken off of that special exemption ban list. So you could see both the set breakdown and the pull ratio breakdown of what Rising Winds did over in Japan. But how did Japan actually take to the set? Well, the pull rates being what they were didn't necessarily make them highly sought after, and they weren't necessarily received very well over in the Japanese format. The main reason behind this, from what I can remember, was the same reason why we had issues over here in the English format, and that was all thanks to the bad pull rates. So the bad pull rates were more specifically geared towards the newer cards, which were the only cards that players actually wanted to play, more than the reprints, even though the reprints were nice to have and made certain cards accessible. Because of the reprinted cards were all from sets 1 through 5 outside of some specific promos, Japan had already moved past the need or want for them, just because they were already in the EX4 format and they were about to be in the BT13 format, which didn't necessarily see all of these cards being something that players wanted to need and invest in, especially since these three sets were released 1 month after one another, so the hype and attention was clearly not on Rising Winds. So the English version of the game knew that Rising Winds was going to be a set. We knew that it was going to have a lot of important reprints that we really wanted and we really needed. And the fact that when we caught wind of the Rising Wind set not having the reprints, the community was immediately upset. One of the big driving factors to how the English community actually felt was the fact that Bandai has never really been good with distributing promos and certain reprints of cards in a timely manner when we need them, along with many other reasons, like how we got Starter Deck 11, which for Japan was an actual starter deck, and for the English version it was split up as a box topper, causing a lot of doubt that we would get RB01 reprints in a meaningful way before Bandai had said anything about reprints. This information was obviously found on distributor websites, as information is needed months ahead of time, so stores have enough time to place their orders with the distributors, and then the distributors can count all of those orders to tell Bandai how much they need, and then Bandai prints accordingly. The backlash and outcry was large enough to get Bandai to end up reversing the decision decision, which had to be a hard choice for them, potentially ruining their production pipeline. We could even go back and see the post that they made in response to the community's outcries to try to fix the set to be more in line with what the Japanese version of the set was trying to do, with the announcement that a couple of changes were needed to be made along with a delay. So Bandai did plan, according to that post, on giving us the reprints in a separate unannounced product. They should have just communicated this with the English side ahead of time, and they could have even went as far as ignoring the community's pleas, but for some reason they didn't. The fact that Bandai actually listened to the community was a really big surprise and felt like a big win for the community, making a big, large corporation change due to consumer feedback. But the fact that we were getting the reprints was already a big enough deal for most people. But there was a canceled version of Rising Winds as a result. So this was a completely different version of RB01, which was planned with no reprints in mind. But however, as we already stated before, due to the backlash and outcry, they ended up reworking the product to be renamed later as the Resurgence Booster. The original RB1 was scheduled to be released at sometime in August of 2023 before the delay, which only delayed things till 1 month after BT13's release. There was a rough estimate on how much a box would have costed, which was going to be anywhere from $25 to $30 for 12 packs, or half the amount that we usually would get, which isn't that bad considering it's supposed to be a smaller set. So as far as what we actually could have gotten, we do have information on what we would have gotten with Rising Winds before it was canceled and turned into the Resurgence Booster we now have today. So the price of the product and number of cards we would have received actually wouldn't have been that bad of a product for what it was currently priced at. And we could see that TCG Player did have a post as far as what Rising Winds was supposed to be. So there were a couple of English differences that we do have to keep in mind when it comes to the difference in RB01 from what Japan had. So the Japanese version got the security rookies, they got the alt art memory boosts along with the base memory boosts, and then they also had a couple of different cards, like they had BT3 Wormmon and BT5 Mechanorimon in their boosters. The English version instead got Starter Deck 2 Kaiserdale and Starter Deck 3 Holy Flame, which I definitely think were huge upgrades in terms of reprints, as well as getting the base memory boosts, but the alts were not included, and we didn't get the security rookie alts in our Resurgence booster either. So those were obviously put in other products and various other places. We also did get reprints of the promo hero, Ruli, and Kyoshiro, which were really welcome, as well as getting a new alt art for BT01, Vidramon Secret Rare, along with the release of the promos of Siriusmon, Amphimon, and Diarabbitmon, which we didn't have previously before. The English version got less overall alt arts and got one more Secret Rare as a result. So that brings us all the way up to the English version of Resurgence Booster. You could see the set breakdown and even the English pull ratios, and because of the way the English pull ratios worked, it actually was easier to get the alt arts of the brand new cards versus the base arts of the brand new cards, which is something we really haven't seen before. So how was the overall English reception? Well, it was kind of mixed. It was very divisive by the community at large. On one side, you had the newer or more casual players that loved seeing all of these reprints because they got easy access to some of the supposed staples. On the other side, you have the more veteran players that actually didn't really enjoy the reprint set just because, well, not only did a lot of the reprints just not matter to them because they would have already had the cards, but a lot of the cards were already past their prime, and they just cared about the new cards even if they weren't meta relevant, just because they wanted something new and exciting to play around with. Then there were the people that were in between that could see both sides of things, but still at the end of the day thought something was kind of wrong with the set. At the end of the day, no one is exactly wrong for the way that they felt and how they currently feel, and not every product is made for everyone, and it's impossible to make everyone happy all the time. So when it comes to the English secondary market, this is where things get a little bit on the rough side and where a lot of the negative feelings came into play, just because the pull rates made getting the new stuff harder and the old stuff super easy. So because of this, the new cards became super expensive, more expensive than they reasonably should have been, and the old cards were basically worthless because that was the majority of what you got, and because of this, it made the set's EV relatively low, crashing the overall box price, just because the set really wasn't worth opening, just because the majority of what you were opening wasn't worth much of anything. So this is something that's not really good for stores and single sellers, just because if you're going to try to make money off of this product, you basically can't, just because you're going to have to either A, sell at a loss, or B, for stores, sell at a higher price than online just to try to break even or make your margins. And the set became a very high risk and volatile set, making it not really worth opening for both stores and single sellers due to the lack in confidence and current state of the secondary market. And the proof is kind of just in the pudding. So if you go to TCG Player, you could sort by best-selling cards, and you could kind of see that obviously some of the best-selling cards, if not almost all of the best-selling cards, were in fact the new cards. They weren't the reprints, and if they were the reprints, there were only a small handful of them. You could even take a look and see that the booster box has been tanking in price and has been on the decline ever since its release, just because the value isn't really worth it in the set, and because the set is too volatile and high risk, not a whole lot of people actually want to open it, and because there's so much stock of the set, that means that the price is going to have to go down in order for them to try to sell it to cycle through their overall stock of the product. So what could have been done to actually make this set better? Well, there's a couple of different things that could have made the set better. The first one is making it so that the Ghost Game new cards and the rares were easier to get. I think if that they were easier to get, it would have made things feel less bad, and they could have done this in a couple of different ways. They could have put the memory boosts in the promo slot instead of the SR slot, so that way we get more SRs and we get a little bit less promos, which we were already getting one of each promo per box already. They could have also just fiddled with the rares and being able to give us an extra rare slot. So in Japan, they had a 13th card, which was that secondary rare slot, or if they didn't want to give us that 13th card, they could have just easily removed a common or uncommon reprint. Then on top of that, as far as separate products go, which is what I originally would have liked them to do, they could have just had the products for the different people. If you wanted the reprints, you buy the reprint product. If you wanted the new cards, you buy the new product. And they could have even taken this a step further and put the RB01 exclusive cards mixed into a set with the LM01 cards, just because we know that LM01 is also going to include Ghost Game cards, and they could have basically made a Ghost Games EX set and gave us a couple of reprints with that as well. They also could have just made the product cheaper to initially begin with, knowing that this was going to happen or estimating that this was going to happen, so that way it's just a lower risk for everyone involved. So that's kind of the quick rundown in history on RB01 from its inception all the way up to its overall reception. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, So when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook. So when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.